It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague, the star of radio, Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
I wouldn't say star.
What would you say? Borderline star? Borderline elite?
Rising star.
Rising star. For those who are unaware, and if you're unaware, where have you been? Neil was on TalkSport 2, Nat Coombs' NFL show on Tuesday night, giving us fantasy nuggets, and even made Nat Coombs laugh at least twice.
Well, you know, I am the funny one.
You actually hashtag TFO actually proved that you were the funny one, Neil. Congratulations. I was very proud. I was like a dad. I actually stayed up until like quarter midnight listening to it, which was
anyone who stays up till anyone who stays up near to quarter midnight just to hear me talk is probably a stalker or borderline has deep psychological issues. So I think I'll leave now, and you can do this by yourself.
Excellent. If my plan worked. Dutton, week 2. We're going to do the same as last week. Go through 3 games which we think are the highest scoring fantasy values. Give you some thoughts. We're going to give Dutton's fantasy darling of the week, Dutton's fantasy loser of the week, and then we're going to give you our DraftKings daily fantasy teams of the week. But Dutton, last week we did awards, but this week we're going to start the hot wax takes, Dutton. We're going to talk about, in theory, very quickly, some hot takes. Yeah, I may have used Nelly for a hot take, Dutton. So luckily you can't hear the sounds, only me, so you won't know what that is.
Do we have to pay him for this? Because I heard he's struggling.
I believe that if it's less than 15 seconds, you don't necessarily have to, so it's 9, so unlucky.
Stuff him.
And he won't listen anyway, so not really a problem. So what we're going to do is we're literally just going to give you one-line things and maybe a bit of a 10-second rebuttal of what we've decided is our hot takes from week 1. Dutton, I'm going to go first. Andrew Luck will be this generation's Dan Marino. He may be excellent. The team around him will be continually rubbish.
Yeah, I can see that, as long as Bogano and Grigson are there.
I will never pick against the New England Patriots ever again.
What's the point?
It's just burning money. I'm going to pick the over in the Saints game until it gets to 100 points.
I actually don't think this... I think this game will actually be under this weekend.
I like it. Hot take on my hot take. Like it. Mm-hmm. There is a game in week 2 which will be the AFC title game in January.
Well, Jets and Bills are going to have a long way to come back. But,
And last one, Dutton, for me. Don't worry about the Jags. They're still the best team in the AFC South.
Is that a bit like saying you're the best singer in One Direction?
Probably. Hit me with it, Dutton.
Cole Beasley could be the wide receiver to own in Dallas as long as Dak Prescott's a quarterback.
I thought that'd be Jason Witten, or does Jason Witten only do that when he plays his New York Giants?
Only when he plays his Giants. The Giants couldn't cover, to quote Run for Johnny, the Giants couldn't cover a tight end if he was potatoes and they were gravy.
Nice.
Lamar Miller could threaten 400 total touches this year. He got 32 on Sunday.
That's a lot. And that gives Dan Hanzus lots of pleasure, unlike his Jets.
Only 2 quarterbacks in their second year have thrown for more than 4,500 yards. Jameis Winston will be the third.
That's not a hot take, Dutton. That's staring at facts.
Jamal Charles is coming back into a full-blown running back by committee.
Jamal Charles, Washington Redskin.
No, he can still run the ball. That immediately eliminates him from Washington.
Touché.
RG3 won't play another Brown snap.
Not again. Probably not a hot take. More like a fact. That was a hot take from me and Dutton. So Dutton, let's get on with the show and let's look at our games of the week.
The games of the week.
Touchdown, 85 yards. He's going to score. He's going
Let's start with the game that I had as my hot take, and that was these two teams would play each other in the AFC title game. They probably won't. It'll probably be, I expect them to play in January. That's Bengals at Steelers. Two of the most impressive victories in week one. Tough road game for the Bengals, and the Steelers just proven how easy it is to score against the Washington semi-professional football team. The question I have for you, though, Dutton, really is, are these the best two teams in the league?
Certainly from a roster point of view, you'd be hard pressed to argue against the Bengals, even with only one real wide receiver. As you know, they pretty much said to the Jets, we know you've got Darrelle Revis, we know we've got no one else to pass to, but we're going to throw to AJ Green. The Steelers, with all respect to the team that I tipped to win the NFC East, I'd like to see them pushed before I start climbing, because I've said for a few weeks something about the Steelers that doesn't sit right with me.
Is the D'Angelo Williams hype, as in, will a lot of people be picking him up this week if he wasn't picked up already, or was that just because he's playing a really porous Washington rush defence?
I hope people are picking him up, because you don't chase fantasy points. Yeah, he's done really well in spot duty. Pick him up by all means. Drop someone who could have an actually bigger role outside of 3 weeks from now, when Williams goes back to being the bench boy behind Bell, because they're not going to split that. It's not going to be a share between Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams. So please pick up D'Angelo Williams and enjoy him for the next 2 weeks. But after that, get rid.
Week 2's on daily fantasy. Top two wide receivers in terms of value are going to be Antonio Brown and AJ Green. Which ones you pick this week?
This week I'm going with AJ because the Steelers secondary is still trash, I believe. And the Bengals isn't. Now, AJ will get his own, but very, very important thing, I believe you brought this up.
Go for it,
Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown average 60 fewer yards against the Bengals than they do in every other game. This is a team that Roethlisberger struggles against. He doesn't bring his very best against the Bengals. So, if given the choice, gun to head, which no one's putting a gun to my head for my fantasy advice yet, I'll take AJ.
I think you're right. I mean, AJ Green is my fancy wide receiver in my league of record, our league of record, where I scored 120 points and got beat this week. And I don't see any reason, as Brian Billick said, he was sipping Mai Tais on Reeves Island, and I don't expect any different this week against a lesser caliber cornerback. Bengals Steelers, don't, just because I'm interested, who'd you pick?
I'm taking the Bengals. As I say, it's very hard to run on the Steelers. They're not a terribly good pass rush, but they don't really allow to be run on. Ken Zampese, his first game as offensive coordinator, was a lot more pass happy than his predecessors, Hugh Jackson and Jay Gruden. So he obviously decided against the Jets, who you can't really run on. Don't bother. Well, a nod to the run game, but I'm going to air it out. And Ken Zampese, of course, is the son of Ernie Zampese, who was one of the coaches with Don Coryell. So I don't think he's a stranger to giving the ball some air. I just think, if it comes down to that, I'd say target AJ Green 15 times. There's no harm in it.
This game, it really does have playoff implications this early on. I know they played twice, but if the Bengals were to win, it's a massive advantage because they've still got the Steelers to come. I'm going to take the Steelers. I expect them to split the records and both win the home games. I think the Steelers might just do enough. And although Ben and Antonio Brown don't have 60 less yards, that's still 80 yards and a touchdown, which I'm pretty sure is still okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next game, Dutton, it's the Saints at the Giants. Just so everyone is aware, unfortunately we do this based on higher scoring games, so there is a possibility that the Saints will be on this podcast every single week due to their offensive firepower and absolute defensive ineptitude. On the Saints wide receivers, Dutton, what did you think? Everyone thought Michael Thomas, but do we now look daily fantasy at Willie Snead?
Absolutely. Willie Snead, very, very underrated. He was, I'm not going to say hype, but he did get a little bit of buzz during the pre-season and during the long, dark summer of the soul. I think he was one of Matt Harmon's boys and certainly my colleagues at RotoViz, an awful lot of them were very high on him. Brandon Cooks, the stat sheet looked great, which ultimately that's all that counts in fantasy, but he did have a 98-yard touchdown. So, he's not going to put 140 up every week, but in terms of volume of targets, Willie Snead is going to get an awful lot of looks, especially if Kobe Fleener sucks.
Kobe Fleener on the packet of milk cartons, I believe. Brandon Cook, back to Cooks, he did one of our friends' favourite things, added to Drew Brees' stats of a 98-yard pass, which went 5 yards.
Don't hate the play.
5 yards in the air, 93 yards on the deck. That's a 98-yard pass. Did he fire it from a cannon? I don't think he did.
They still count.
They do, don't they? Do. If you move over to the other side, Beckham, Cruz, back alive, Sterling Shepard, are they all going to get massive games this week?
Well, if you actually look, the Giants' offense was actually very, very balanced. They had 28 pass plays and 24 rush plays. This is one of the reasons why I don't think this game is going to hit the Vegas total, because I think the Giants are going to get so far ahead and be so dominant that it's not going to have to be a track meet. They're not going to have to match blow for blow. Their defense is going to be able to do enough that they're going to run the ball an awful lot more. So that makes Rashard Jennings an interesting play. And also, you mentioned, the receivers. Last week, Beckham got 8 targets. Cruz and Double S got 4 each. Shane Vereen got 5. So they were looking to spread it around. They weren't just keying in on Beckham. So it's one of those. If you're playing the Saints, if you've got them, fire them up.
Last game, Dutton.
Sorry, can I just say, Drew Brees, though, in his career against the Giants, has 215 attempts, 144 completions, 1,914 yards, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Not that that's not an excellent stat, Dutton, but I'd be interested to see, that stat line where it's bad against the team. Do you know what I mean? Like Drew Brees, Drew Brees throws for a lot of yards and touchdowns. He's already leader in the clubhouse of passing yards again. I think that'll be his 6th time, and no one else has won it more than 3. And have you seen the people who've won it 3 times? It's Otto Graham and Sonny Jurgensen. They're like 2 Washington Redskin quarterbacks from the 50s and the 20s.
Don't forget as well, this is the Spags revenge game.
He sucks, so he can spag off. He's rubbish. How he's got a job in the NFL, I will never know. He got fired from the Saints. They don't play defense. That shows you how bad a job he did. He's a clown. I don't like him. And should we be, as a Philadelphia and Washington fan, should we be fearful this is one of those Giants years?
Giants, when they're dominant, don't win the Super Bowl. It's when they sneak in. That's when I start.
They definitely. I mean, it's a week 1 overreaction, but they definitely look like, oh crap, that's the 11-5 team that's going to win the division, isn't it? Crap. They've already beaten Dallas. They always beat us. You're not very good. They don't beat you, but say they go 4-2. That's the division wrapped up.
Bear in mind, though, they still have to play in the division that has Jordan Reed, so there's twice. There's Ertz, Selleck, Trey Burton. They've got to go with Witten again. They can't cover tight ends because literally they take the Seattle Seahawks offensive line approach to linebackers. Who can we get in cheap? Yeah, but they're rubbish, but they're cheap. No, it's an inefficiency.
Yeah, I understand, but like Jordan Reed may be good, but I'm not 100% sure he's got anyone to throw it to him unless Colt McCoy's the starting quarterback in week 6 or whenever we play them. I'm depressed already. It's week 1. Oh, I'm already depressed. We paid this. The only thing that I keep on thinking is, at least we didn't pay him 80 million over 4 with 60 million guaranteed.
Kirk Cousins did say today that he thinks he'll always be a work in progress. Do you want to be unemployed, mate?
I've read that story, but then that was did you read the Case Keenum? I was seeing ghosts. No, you weren't seeing anyone. Because you threw 3 yards. If you would have seen people, you may have thrown it to them down the field. Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about that game.
We're not talking about that game. Apart from, if you haven't seen it, people, please, I can't stress enough, find Kevin Harlan's radio commentary from Westwood One. of a guy, someone getting onto the field. It is truly, truly amazing.
It's up there with one of the greats. It's up there with couldn't get his leg over.
It's absolutely magnificent. Final game, Dutton. Massive game, especially for the Arizona Cardinals, who were at home to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everyone expected the Cardinals to win. They laid an egg against the prettiest man on the field, Jimmy Garoppolo, and the rest of the no marks who the New England Patriots constantly win with. And now they get the Bucs with your guy who you just mentioned there, Jameis Winston. And the question is, Dutton, a lot of hype this year about Marcus Mariota and the other year one quarterbacks that have come in this year. But is Jameis Winston actually the future of the NFL?
I think so. Jameis Winston has the advantage that he's got an offensive-minded head coach and a pretty good offensive scheme around him, whereas Marcus Mariota has got Mike Mularkey as his head coach and Terry Robisky, who last surfaced in the league as the Falcons wide receiver coach. Great. Wow. I'm so excited for you, Marcus.
I love Chris Weston. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I can't believe how wrong he is on the Tennessee Titans. It's like he can't. It's like he's blind by something, and I don't know what it is. Now I just want to hold him and say, "No, Chris, it's okay. But you've
not your fault.
Really got this wrong."
Yeah, it's not your fault, Wes.
It's not your fault.
Not your fault.
It's Mike Mularkey's fault. An exotic smash mouth doesn't exist.
The fantasy douche, the all-powerful leader at Rotoviz, did tweet something wonderful, but I'm not going to repeat it. About it was exotic smash mouth, exotic, I reckon.
I've got again somehow got the muscle hamster or whatever name he wants to be called, the Dugganator, or what's he want his nickname? Dugganaut. There was a lot of split carried with Charles Sims last week. Is that a concern for Martin owners?
It depends. I mean, positive game script. If they're going to be able to run the ball, then Martin's going to be the guy. If they do have to start airing it out a bit more, that's when Charlie Sims is going to come in. Did you see his touchdown the weekend, by the way?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Atlanta, tackle him. It's not touch football. Put your man down. They're an abysmal defence, but enough of that. Positive game script favours Martin. This game, I don't think is going to be positive. I think we could see an awful lot of Sims, so he's certainly well worth picking up. Flex, wide receiver, running back 3 or whatnot. But if I was going to do stacking, look up, get me Jameis and Sims or Jameis and Evans. Jameis and Sims.
Was the lack of output from the Cardinals, which was concerning, purely just down to playing the Pats?
No, I don't think this offense is clicking yet. I think they're hampered by the fact that John Brown still isn't himself. He banged his head in August at training camp, missed a lot of time through the concussion protocol, came back and then started developing headaches. Now, anyone who knows anything about concussions, be they mild or serious, knows that headaches after you've had one is a worrying sign. So he did play. He wasn't wasn't a big part of the offense. Most of the work went to Larry Fitz, who delivered. But Michael Floyd still saw most of the red zone targets. So I think it's, what Fitz is going to do. What Floyd's going to do. Brown's a bit more of an X factor. If you can get him involved. Carson Palmer looked okay. He didn't look, like he had a noticeable hangover from the Carolina game last year. I don't think they were there yet. I think it's not the worst thing in the world to start 1, as long as you weren't absolutely awful. So I'm not panicking about the Cardinals, but if John Brown continues to struggle and JJ Nelson's injured as well, they don't use the tight end. They're going to ask an awful lot of Fitz, who said he's not retiring, but if he has to carry the water all season, he probably will.
16 carries for David Johnson at 5.6 a rush, and people love him. But fantasy owners must be thinking, can we make 16-25, please, Bruce?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Cardinals don't run to be balanced. Sorry, they don't run to establish anything. They run to be balanced. So if they decide all of a sudden, okay, no, that's it, enough running, we're going to pass it now. Johnson still stays in the game because he's such a good receiver. But obviously, people were drafting him presumably as high as he went to get yards on the ground and touchdowns. So you're going to get the Cardinals are. It's a feast or famine, but it's never going to be a full famine. It's either going to be a filet mignon with all the trimmings and a lovely glass of house red, or a burger. You're never going to get a zero. So they'll all chip in, but it's just a question of, is someone going to be the absolute stud for the Cardinals?
You expect the Cardinals to win this game, Don?
I do. I just think if it comes down to both teams have offensive firepower, but one team, I trust their defense more than the other, and I will take the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm with you, Don. I'm going to take the Cardinals too. So now, let's look at your fancy darling of the week.
Hello, darling.
Who is it, Dutch?
Fancy darling is, he's not going to be absolutely outstanding, but someone who should benefit from circumstances that changed him last week, and that's Gary Barnidge. He was ignored by Robert Griffin against the Eagles. The Eagles do have a slight problem against tight ends. They were in the middle of the field, could have been over. But I think he laid a duck egg. Got Josh McCown coming back in. The difference last season between when McCown was playing and when he wasn't, in terms of Barnes' play, was marked. If I can find my stats, here they are. When McCown was playing, he was targeted on average just under 9 times a game, with just under 6 catches and 80 yards receiving. Without McCown, it was 7 targets, 4 catches, 50 yards. So the Ravens are going to batter them, let's be honest. This will be an absolute shoo-in. So Josh McCown is going to be throwing the ball a lot more. That's going to be good for Barnidge, because even last week, when the Eagles were moving ahead of them, they still kept trying to run the ball. This isn't working, Hugh. So I think Barnidge, Barnidge, I think he could force himself into the tight end conversation for this week.
So Barnidge is the darling, Dutton, but who's the loser? Tell me it's Todd Gurley, Dutton.
It's Todd Gurley.
Why is it Todd Gurley, Dutton? I don't think people need to realise if they happen to have the misfortune of watching the second Monday Night Football game, but elaborate.
He plays for the Los Angeles Rams. His head coach is Jeff Fisher. He's a loser. He went too high. I mean, he's the prime advert for why you don't draft running backs early. Because when they get beat, and they're going to get beat, he disappears from the game. He's going to disappear from this game this week.
Because they are playing the Seattle Seahawks. The question I have is this the ridiculousness of the St. Louis Rams? I've done it myself. The LA Rams, St. Louis don't want them anymore after that performance. Of the Rams, that they will actually play well this week because they always do against Seattle.
Oh, they will. They'll put up some kind of fight, but it won't be with the ground game. This will be Tavon Austin saying, I need 96 catches to get Dutton to buy that shirt. I'll have 12 of them today.
I really want you to buy that shirt, Dutton, so let's hope that happens. Last but by no means least, Dutton, let's get on with the Mainz and Dutts Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Mainz and Dutts Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
It's brought to you by DraftKings, Dutton. Get involved, people. Get on DraftKings. Use our link. Get your teams in. And get involved. We're head-to-head and the $1 million one we usually do. The head-to-head, Dutton, I was 0-2 this week. I believe you were 2-1.
2-1.
And
unfortunately, unfortunately, the last game, the gentleman I was playing had Brown and D'Angelo Williams.
That is not good, and I apologise on behalf of Washington. Dutton, who is your quarterback in your fantasy team of the week?
Jameis Winston.
Going big, going hard, hot take. Got him in the games of the week, and now got him in the team of the week. Done. You expect him to do well against Cardinals secondary?
I think he'll get an awful lot of opportunity. The Cardinals secondary isn't a strength at the moment, and I think they can shut the run down, and I think they will. So that means Winston's going to have to throw an awful lot more. So even if he can't lock onto Mike Evans, he'll find someone. I'm big on Winston.
My quarterback is Blake Bortles, Jacksonville Jaguars. As I said, I still think they're the best team in that division. Again, as you said, not exactly saying much on that. This week, I think you're gonna have to throw for a lot of yards. They're playing the Chargers. This could last a long time. A lot of throws, not a lot of runs, I would expect. And I just think that Blake might pull one out the bag there, maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns. Who's running back one, Dutton?
Ryan Matthews.
Going Eagles.
I'm staying aboard that train.
Why this week, Dutton?
I still think the Eagles showed that they are going to run the ball. I think at one stage, every running back they had got at least a carry. They rotated between Matthews, Sproles, Barner, and Smallwood. Matthews got the bulk of the work. It wasn't a great game. I think it was 77 yards on 22 carries, but he did get a touchdown. So the Eagles have shown they are going to feed him the rock. The Bears, the defense didn't look particularly impressive, and Lamar Miller did wear them down. So I'm going with Matthews.
I've no Keenan Allen's up, and I've gone for Danny Woodhead. I know there was a lot of noise on name of running back from Wisconsin.
Gordon.
Thank you, Melvin Gordon. However, Danny Woodhead still got a lot of runs, a lot of targets. No Keenan Allen. He has been Phil Rivers' blankie, so I'm going to go with Danny Woodhead as running back 1. Dutton, who's running back 2?
Jonathan Stewart. I know the San Francisco 49ers did a good job of shutting down Todd Gurley. That was because if you can shut down Todd Gurley, you're pretty much done. Can't do that against the Panthers. They're too multifaceted, and Pat Stewart is still going to get the bulk of the workload.
I've gone for CJ Anderson, Dutton, for the Denver Broncos. They're playing the Colts. They stink really, really badly. CJ Anderson separated himself as the running back 1 there week 1, and I expect him to do quite a lot of damage to the very injured Colts defense. Wide receiver 1, Dutton.
AJ Green.
Yeah, wide receiver 1 for me as well, Dutton. We both picked him. We mentioned it before. I assume it's because you like his matchup against the Steelers secondary in comparison to Antonio Brown. Like
his matchup, and like the fact that the Bengals have shown they're going to feed him. So I'd be very surprised if he didn't get double-digit targets and close to double-digit receptions again.
Wide receiver 2, Dutton.
Willie Snead.
Willie Snead for me too, Dutton. This is good. We don't even see each other's lineups yet. I've gone Willie Snead as well. They're playing the Giants in a game where there could be 700 passes.
Yep.
Wide receiver 3, Dutton.
Wide receiver 3, you've already mentioned that Keenan Allen is out. So a target that Phil Rivers did find some chemistry with in the preseason, that's Travis Benjamin. This is a very boom or bust play because Benjamin's not a 8 catch for 120 kind of guy. He could be 3 for 40 or 3 for 120. I just think that they're going to be throwing the ball an awful lot, and I wasn't too impressed by the Jaguars secondary. So I think Benjamin, he's my gamble, should we say?
I've stayed in New York, and I've gone for Sterling Shepard. I think there's a lot of targets this week for the Giants wide receivers. We mentioned it before. He probably is second on the depth. They're probably going to focus on Beckham Jr., but I still expect him to get that Willie Snead number. That second receiver numbers Willie Snead got compared to Brandon Cooks. That kind of idea. So I'm happy to have Sterling Shepard. Who's your tight end, Dutton?
Eric Ebron. Played, I think it was 95% of the offensive snaps last week. That's a hell of a lot for a tight end, especially from what we've seen, of Ebron in his career. I think he got 5 targets and 5 receptions. By the way, did you know that Matt Stafford completed every single pass to every player not called Marvin Jones last week?
I didn't. He was excellent and has been excellent since Jim Bob took over.
Yeah, so I think...
Do you know his name is not James Robert? His name is actually Jim Bob.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They don't fool around where he comes from. I think they're playing the Titans, who weren't particularly good against Kyle Rudolph. I think it'd have to be certainly a certain generosity of spirit to say that Ebron's better than Kyle Rudolph.
Tight end, I've gone Larry Donnell. Tight end for the Giants. Touchdown last week. Playing the Saints. Yeah, I like picking against the Saints, and I'll probably do so until it doesn't work. Who's your flex, Dutton?
Flex is Devonta Freeman. I'm not fully buying into this. It's a committee. We're gonna, it's a timeshare. I still think Freeman's a better back. I don't think they're going to win. So again, it focuses on the fact that Matt Ryan is going to have to pass the ball. Freeman is still a much better receiver than Tevin Coleman, who is very good at running fast in a straight line. Freeman's a bit more nifty, so I like him this week against the Raiders.
Flex, Dutton, and you mentioned running fast in a straight line. That's Mike Wallace of the Baltimore Ravens, who are playing the Cleveland Browns. He runs fast in a straight line. Managed to get with Flacco and scored a touchdown. I'm hoping the first of many. Who's your defense, Dutton? And I'd be stunned if we haven't got the same one.
Well, I've got the Eagles.
Okay, we haven't got the same one. Go on. What? You got the Eagles because they're playing the Bears, right?
They're playing Jay Cutler.
So I see your Eagles playing Jay Cutler, and I raise you Seahawks playing Case Keenum.
I was tempted with that, but I still in the back of my mind is the Rams are playing the Seahawks. They're going to play up.
Okay, cool. Done. So let's wrap that up. Fancy team of the week. Who's your quarterback?
Jameis Winston.
I've got Blake Bortles. Running back 1.
Ryan Matthews.
I've got Danny Woodhead. Running back 2.
Jonathan Stewart.
CJ Anderson. Wide receiver 1.
AJ
Green. Wide receiver 2.
Willie Snead.
Wide receiver 3.
Travis Benjamin.
I've got Sterling Shepard. Tight end.
Eric Ebron.
I've got Larry Donnell. Who's your flex, Dutton?
Devonta Freeman.
I've got Mike Wallace. And your defence?
Philadelphia Eagles.
I got the Seattle Seahawks. That is our wrap up of week 2, Dutton. As you will have seen, if you follow us on Twitter at waxing_lyrical, there was a lot of output from one of us, probably the one who's speaking right now, because Dutton can barely control one Twitter account, never mind 2. Please interact with us, we love it. A lot of banter, a lot of fun. Trying to keep it light on the Twitter account. A lot of retweets of some funny things, and trying to get you all involved in the NFL. If you want to just follow me and Dutton, I'm at Mainzy7, and Dutton is at NDutton13, now also famous due to TalkSport. We're on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher. If you want to leave us a rating, please do. As we said, Dutton in the preseason said he'd give someone a book for the best one. So please do. And that's at waxing. That's waxing lyrical, Mainz and Dutts on iTunes.
So far, the winner is a Mr. Neil Dutton of Rainsford.
Well done, Dutton. Well done. Congratulations. That's been the podcast. It's been Waxing Lyrical. Get used to it.